I am giggling because I have so many pictures of my kids sleeping in the car.
I bet. Yeah.
I would pick them up from school if I was lucky enough to grab them from school, and I'd say, "Close your eyes. Close your eyes."
Here's a snack. Now close your eyes.
Yeah, exactly. You need sleep.
Well, your kiddos were doing all the sports and the travel teams. And so, yes, that whole phase of life was kind of a blur, right?
Welcome to Redesigning Health and Home. I'm Meg.
And I'm Kerri. We love creating beautiful, functional spaces and living healthy, vibrant lives. So join us as we chat about simple, practical ways to take care of your body, mind, and your home. Whether it's fitness tips, home decor ideas, or navigating those big life moments, we're here to share what's working for us and what isn't, with some encouragement along the way.
And occasionally, we'll sprinkle in some fun topics to brighten your day and to make you smile. Let's redesign this life together, one step, one room, and one habit at a time. Hi, and welcome back to Redesigning Health and Home. Kerri and I are so excited to have you along for this conversation. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about reflecting back on some of our earlier parenting days. Hi, Kerri.
Hi, Meg. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you and all of our listeners today. We're happy that you're joining us in this conversation. Well, Kerri, you and I talk about how blessed we are to have a wonderful family and that we get to talk to our kids on a regular basis. But that got me thinking, what about way back in the early days? If we wanted to share a little bit about how we made some of the decisions we made. So, a really little brief storytelling here. Are you up for that?
Absolutely. Our kids are in their mid-20s, just so you know, and we have amazing relationships with our kids. And it is interesting to see some of the parenting, I don't know, tips and recommendations that are out there now, and how that might be quite different than what we learned as young moms back in the day. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to just kind of revisit that whole era of our lives.
Let's revisit it. And we all made our own decisions of what we felt best for our own family. And that's what we're encouraging you to do too, or reflect back. We all did our best. We're making the best decisions we can at the time of that situation. So are you ready to jump right in?
Yes, yes, let's go for it.
Okay, so early education. Early education. There are so many options. You can keep your kiddos at home. You can go to preschool. You can do maybe a couple hours a day at a nursery school. You can do Montessori. What did you do, or what did you and your partner Pete decide to do together for your kids for that experience?
Well, we were looking for something pretty local, and our girls went to preschool just the year before they started kindergarten. So they both only went for 1 year. And we actually loved our preschool so much that we registered Jordan to go to the same one when it was her turn to go. And in the community where we lived, there was a preschool that was offered through the park district or through the village. And they had two locations, one that was kind of a more traditional school like, and one that was located kind of in this park. You had to drive down this hill, and at the bottom there was a pond and big trees. And I remember going to check it out and just thinking, oh, this is so lovely. And nature and being outdoors is just such a really important thing, particularly for my husband, but also for myself, that we were really drawn to it. The preschool was in this little tiny building, self-contained building, two instructors, small classes, but it really was the surrounding nature that I think really attracted us to choose that one. And I remember taking the girls to and from the preschool. We had to build in extra time to do the walk because you had to stop and check out the frogs or see what was in the pond or growing nearby or whatever. And so it was just this lovely little charming preschool. We would even go there on the weekends just to visit this park, and I remember we took pictures, family pictures of us all piling up the leaves and jumping in the leaves and had these pictures. So, yeah, it was just a super sweet preschool, and the girls had a very good experience there for sure.
That sounds so nice. So this sounds like it was a decision just based on what would fit best for your family. You didn't have any time parameters. It was just, hey, we're going to search out for what's best. And you loved it so much.
Yeah, I wasn't looking for a particular direction of instruction or anything like that. So I think from the education part of it, it was a pretty typical preschool as far as learning your ABCs and doing crafts and all that sort of thing. And you're right. I wasn't working at the time, so I didn't have to fill specific hours, so that was pretty flexible for us at that time. It changed later, but at that time, so we were pretty open. But it filled what we were looking for at the time. How about for you? How did you make your decision?
Well, the reason I asked you that was yes, I was taking some classes. So I did have to pivot a little bit to find a preschool because we wanted a structured environment instead of bringing we could have brought someone into the house, but the kids, I think, were at the point where we realized, I think they need a little more, they
Mhm,
need a little more. So I needed specific timing. So we
mhm,
did talk to neighbors and friends that were in the local area, and ours was local. It was a local Montessori.
mhm.
And looking back, it was a great decision. I mean,
Yes.
looking back, I would say, yep, that's for whatever the universe was telling us at that time, whether I was supposed to be taking these classes, but that decision for our family worked out really well. I think one or two of the neighbors mentioned this school. We checked it out and the kids jumped right in. It was an interest. I knew nothing about Montessori. They go by years.
Mhm,
So 3 to 6s are all together, then you're coupled. So the older kids can nurture and guide the younger kids can nurture the older kids, and you're not really self-driven, but I remember the kids got to come home and they'd have a little list of what each did,
mhm,
and both lists were completely different. We loved it, and we were moving around kindergarten,
mhm,
but we made the decision to drive back and forth for that last kindergarten year because they would have still been the oldest kids and we wanted them to have that experience. And it worked out really well for our family. I'm glad that we made that decision looking back. So it sounds like we both made some good decisions there, or however it worked out.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And sometimes you don't know how it's going to work out until you get started. So, yeah, it's, I guess we were lucky somewhat that it turned out really well for both of us.
You're right, because if we would have needed to make a change or redesign that decision,
Mhm.
we would have. We
Oh,
would
for
have, and
sure.
I'm sure
Yeah,
you would have as well.
for sure.
All right. So now we get a little older. Homework is starting to come and show up. Tell me about you as a parent.
Mhm.
Did you hover over making sure that homework got done, or were you pretty relaxed and let the kids be independent with that decision?
Well, a little backstory about my own career personally is I had been a kindergarten teacher for, I think it was 7 years in Canada before we moved to the States and had our kids. And so I kind of knew what the expectations were from that side of it as well. And so they're little projects that they bring home when they're really little or not very big or anything. But I felt like it was a really important phase to teach good habits, right? Like, let's open up your backpack. So when the first kids first got home, they were starving, always starving, right? So they needed a snack, a little decompression playtime outside if weather allowed. Always, always, always some outside time, and then let's open up that backpack and check that folder and see what's in there. Is anything need to go back? Is anything needed to be completed? So it wasn't necessarily that we were sitting shoulders to shoulder going over every question, but I definitely was in the area, kind of checking in over the shoulder just to make sure that we were on task. But I felt like those early years, especially, it was just really important to set those good habits early on. So yeah, I was overseeing without doing or like being shoulder to shoulder, I think, unless it was really necessary to be shoulder to shoulder because maybe there was a concept that was a little bit trickier, especially later on in school. But yeah, that's I think how we approached it at the beginning. And Pete was always great. He would take big interest in looking at their little papers they would bring home and hang on the fridge, whatever. So
Do you remember some of the early grade school years where some years the homework did get pretty heavy and
yeah.
that was maybe were there ever times where you thought, "Oh gosh, I how are they even gonna get this done?"
Well, I remember there being a big jump in 5th grade. I actually remember that for myself even in elementary school, just that 5th grade felt like kind of a bigger jump, I don't know. But yeah, at that point it became a little more serious. The homework was definitely was a big jump and just helping to make sure that the backpack had all the things in it that needed to be in it and that the um, homework exercises were complete. And then I felt like when they got to middle school, the beginning of middle school is challenging because they're starting to move from classroom to classroom. Remember that whole phase? Yes. And so once I kind of got the hang of that, though, I kind of felt like I could allow the consequences to come from the teacher. Right. So if you didn't have something in your backpack that you needed or hadn't completed something, I mean, our girls did great. They were really good at keeping on top of stuff, but the consequence came from the school or from the teacher, not from us, right? Because at that point, they're old enough to handle that, right? Like, oh, shoot, I was supposed to do X, Y, or Z, and I better get that done. And yeah, it's kind of let that come from the school. So I think it was really just a slow progression of um, creating good habits, but then allowing them to also be mature enough to handle the responsibility themselves. It feels like a long time ago that all this happened, Meg. So I'm trying to remember, what it felt like at the time.
That sounds great. It sounds like you were almost ebbing and flowing with the years and the situations. So I like those answers so very much. Well, I will ask you, and then I'll jump back because you
Mhm.
mentioned snack. You mentioned
Mhm.
snack after school.
Yes.
Tell me, was it snack free for all at your household after school, or did you prepare a snack?
Yeah, I would prepare the snack or at least have things in the house kind of in mind for snack. So it was not a free for all. Again, trying to create some good habits at the beginning apples and peanut butter, carrot sticks and ranch dressing, or um, especially our youngest, she would eat the berries and the fruit all day long. Like that was something that she loved. Cheese and crackers and trying to offer healthy choices. And then as they got older, especially when they were driving, it was kind of they swooped in and grabbed whatever and swooped out. And, you hoped that they grabbed something pretty good, but we also didn't tend to have a lot of junk food around the house. I mean, we had some treats for sure, especially for special occasions, but you kind of hope that by then they had developed some pretty good habits that way. So you had to kind of step back and let them make the choices. But how about you? What kind of approach did you take with the homework and the snacks?
Well, the homework, I'm gonna give you a couple looking back where, "Ooh, should have I done that?" I remember there were a few times, let's say they had track or cross country after school, I would get a call or a note, "Hey, I forgot my gym shoes," or "I forgot my soccer cleats."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this was good or bad, but I ran the shoes there.
Oh yeah.
I would find time or even a folder
Mm-hmm.
where I know I could think, gosh, this could have taught a lesson
Mhm.
where, well, I'm not gonna forget those tomorrow because I didn't have them today, and like you said, I
Right.
dealt with the consequence from my coach or my teacher. So I do think about that, but
Mhm.
as far as homework, I think I was in your camp. I asked what they had done. Now, I remember this was not for me growing up. At the beginning of the school year, the kids were given a pretty thick, almost planner like we use now,
Mhm.
an assignment book.
Mhm.
And I think that was part of their job as soon as they sat down on Monday mornings with the teacher, write down what assignments were due.
Mm.
So that was really helpful that you could
Yeah.
flip through that. I really liked those teachers that did the assignment for the week, and I
Yeah.
would just flip through it, but the kids were pretty responsible, get
Mhm.
home, have a snack, and get their homework done.
Mhm.
And I, though, remember, like you said, 6th grade, middle school, that homework ramped up where I even thought, "Hey, it's 10:30, you need sleep."
Yeah.
But also they probably had a practice where maybe they didn't even get started till late.
Yeah.
So, I was a little up and down with, "What should I do here?" You
Yeah.
know? Where I had one child where that, "No, I need to get it done, and I want it done the way I feel it should be done."
Mhm.
And maybe one might say, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to bed?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh, I agree. It got serious, especially in high school. When the amount of time that the kids spent at their extracurriculars increased every year, it seemed, and the homework increased every year. Well, you didn't have any more hours in the day. And same, looking under the bedroom door and seeing the lights still on. And we've long gone to bed, got up to use the bathroom, and the light's still on. And I'm thinking, good grief, it's 11:30. What's happening? And same, our eldest daughter she was not gonna go to bed until that was done exactly to her standards, no matter what time it was. And I felt the same way, like, when is this kid supposed to sleep? Like, this is wild. I guess, I don't know, it was always such a balance though, because the extracurriculars were equally as important to them, right? Our eldest was a dancer and our youngest was a horseback rider. And so the older they got, the more time they spent at their extracurriculars, and I was like, "Wow, there's just not enough time in the day here."
wow, your kiddos were busy. I am giggling because I have so many pictures of my kids sleeping in the car.
I bet. Yeah.
I would pick them up from school if I was lucky enough to grab them from school, and I'd say, "Close your eyes. Close your eyes."
"Here's a snack, now close your eyes."
Yeah, exactly. "You need sleep."
Well, your kiddos were doing all the sports and the travel teams, and so, yes, that whole phase of life was kind of a blur, right? Because it was just very busy from the minute they walked in the door until they did finally go to bed. And even in the morning, I remember Jessica doing the early gym, like, before school even started. Oh my gosh, and she did that so that she could get out a little bit earlier. Well, it was before she started driving, and I remember getting in the car at like 5, whatever it was, to drive her to this gym class thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is way too early to be out in the road. It's way too dark." But yeah, that whole phase, I think you just were in survival mode of trying to fit all the things in, you know?
Fit all the things in, and we're saying, "Should have I done that?" Or maybe a lesson, but honestly, I don't think I would have changed a thing.
No, I don't think we would have either. I mean, the girls loved their extracurriculars and they were very diligent about their schoolwork, so they turned out pretty great. So I guess,
Pretty great.
yeah.
I agree, and for the snack you were asking, it was kinda cute because I think I might have thought Gatorade was something great to drink because one of the kids' friends would pop over, just a neighbor down the street, and would say, "I've never drank so much Gatorade as I do when I'm at your house."
But
But
boy,
I
were
think that
they.
was a special when you had a friend over or, after practice or whatever, but I think I did like to offer choices, but I wasn't just go grab what you want until they were probably a little older. maybe
Yeah.
middle school, yeah, but
Yeah.
before that, grade school, I definitely had the choices for snack that I think I was choosing, but then they got to choose out of my choices, so
Right. Do you want the bowl of berries or do you want the cheese and crackers or the ranch and carrots? These are your choices. We wanted to let you know that Meg and I are taking Redesigning Health and Home on the road. We're doing a live event coming up very soon where we're going to do a live podcast episode. Meg is going to do a wonderful movement session for her fitness business, and I'm going to do a table setting presentation. There's going to be wood fired pizza. It's going to be the best time, and we really want you to come, right, Meg?
we would love for people to come, and it is coming up July 31st. It's a Friday evening from 6 to 9, I believe, and it's out at the beautiful Camp Aramoni out in Tonopah, Illinois.
We will put the link below so that you can check it out. We would love to see you. So pick up your tickets and bring a friend.
Well, that's great, Carrie. It sounds like the snacking worked out well for you and the kids, and as they grew, it probably evolved a little bit for maybe grab what you want.
Oh, absolutely. And then the eldest became a vegetarian. So that really changed things.
When did that happen?
She remembers it being 14 that she at least started talking about it. And my husband said, okay, you need to do some research on how you're going to get enough protein. And I want you to write a persuasive essay about it. And she didn't. She just was like, "This is what I'm doing." So, yeah.
This is what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
like, you know what? That's wild because there were times that my husband had the kids write out something that they wanted
Mhm.
and explained it to us in that same kind of form, which is interesting parenting.
Yeah, that's how the kids got a dog. They both wrote a persuasive essay. Pete kept the letters, he still has them, about how they were gonna do all the walking and all the feeding and all the cleaning up after, and the dog lives here and they live away somewhere else.
Well, we all grow up and yes, okay. Now we're skipping. We're getting off topic here, but I want to know, you mentioned your sweet dog. How did you decide on what type of dog you were going to bring into your family?
Well, that was in the persuasive essay as well, because Pete and I both have some allergies to cats. And Pete believed that he had some allergies for dogs as well. And so hypoallergenic, I don't even know if that's really a thing, but less allergy type dogs was a priority for us. I wanted a fairly small dog just because I thought it would be easier to take care of in general. And so the girls started with those parameters, and we ended up with a Maltese Shih Tzu. So
You ended up with a cutie patootie.
yes, yes, and he's been a great dog. He's not as affectionate as you see some dogs. You know how some dogs like want to be on your lap all the time? I'll even lift him up and be like, "Come on, Ollie, snuggle with me." And he stays for a minute, and then I think he's kinda like, "Ugh, lady, you're so hot. I gotta I gotta get down. You're too hot."
You give him your personality, kind of,
Yeah,
well, this is how I would feel, so
yeah,
but
thanks.
that's cute, that's so cute. He is adorable, and he's so good.
He is, he's a good boy.
Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is a little topic that I think maybe parents struggle with,
Mm,
sleepovers.
mm, mhm.
How did you go about making your decision as a parent once sleepovers became a thing? Was it go for it, all in, hybrid, absolute no? Where did you land?
Yeah, it was hybrid, I would say. So it wasn't just a go for it. We needed to know the family well enough that we felt comfortable. There were a couple times when we felt either because we didn't know the family well, or we just knew our kids had something going on early the next day and that they wouldn't get a wink of sleep and didn't want to set them up for like a really bad day the next day, where we would say, "How about we'll pick you up at 10 or whatever time it was age appropriate. We'll pick you up from the sleepover at 9 or whatever. You can stay up until it's time to brush teeth and go to bed, but then we'll pick you up and bring you home." And did they always love that? No, but it was a compromise that we were able to come to. But yeah, I think it is very family specific and what fits your values. If it was one of my sister's houses, absolutely. You could go and stay over at auntie and uncle's house. But yeah, when it came to friends, a lot of it depended on how well we knew the family.
I agree. I think 90% said, I'll just pick you up, go have fun, but I'm picking you up. And a lot, I think what you just said, didn't even think about was because, yeah, we probably needed to be somewhere the next day on a weekend for a game or even if we were going to church as a family or something. Yeah, that's interesting because I didn't even think about that of yes. But a lot of times I just thought, yeah, we can have a ton of fun, but why do we need to sleep somewhere else?
Right.
But
Yeah.
there I'm not saying it was 100% no.
Hmm.
Yeah, so very interesting. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about your background of how you parented. That was fun to learn.
For sure. And I think it would be a fun follow up conversation to talk about being parents of adult kids because it is so different. It is so much fun, but it just brings kind of a new set of challenges, I would say, right? In a very different way because you always will be their parent, but it's much more like hands off and trying to let them do their thing, but still want to help if you can. And you feel like you're really kind of walking a fine line. So I would love to have that conversation with you on another episode.
Absolutely, and you are right. There's not maybe an easier or harder, it just is different with every
Agreed.
phase.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, because when the kids are really little, tiny babies, and you're all bleary eyed and you're so ecstatic, you're in love with this brand new little human, and every little smile they make and noise they make, you're so proud and excited, but you're also so sleep deprived. And then it changes and it gets busy and they're doing their activities. But every phase, I think, just is so much fun to watch and see these little humans evolve into the people that they become. So it's very fun.
Absolutely. Yes, it all changes and it changes for us as parents for sure
Yeah.
and them as growing adults. So super fun. Well, thanks for talking about this. It was great
Yeah.
to always chat with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for a great topic of conversation, Meg. I love the topics you come up with.
You are sweet. Well, have a good day and thanks for tuning in to Redesigning Health and Home. If you have a minute, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little follow, rate, and review, we would really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And until next Friday, we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Thanks for listening to the Redesigning Health and Home podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, we would love for you to like, share, and follow along so you can catch us on all future episodes. You can find me, Meg, at Fit, Fed, Feeling Good on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
And you can find me, Kerri, on my website at homestylewithkerri.com and on Instagram and Facebook at Homestyle with Kerri. That's Kerri. And you can find both of us at Redesigning Health and Home on Instagram and Facebook. So join us next time for more inspiration on creating a home and a lifestyle that truly supports your best health.